What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Great Men with Shane Sams, and I've got a great man with me today. My guest is Jonathan Cronstedt, but we know and love him as JCron, former president of Kajabi, back in action there now. He went in and he grew that company by over 2,000%. He's the author of the Billion Dollar Bullseye. He's a board director, he's an investor, he's an entrepreneur, and he's also someone that shares my affinity for cigar culture. JCron, welcome back to the program.
Dude, thank you. First of all, for everybody watching, listening, the great man that Shane had hoped for wasn't available. I am the stand-in and glad to be here for that. And yeah, I'd love to talk about cigars. The most awkward moment in anybody's life is when they read your bio and you're just like, man, it sounds so clean and makes sense when someone announces it. And it's like, no, it's probably not the way that it happened. But, hey, cool. That's fun.
Everybody gets the period at the end of the sentence, man. They never see what's behind the curtain.
No, great to be here. Excited to dive into everything today.
Dude, thanks for sending me some of those. You sent me some Padrones, baby. We had a Great Men Guys trip last week in Golden, Colorado. And there are none of those left. There are none. Zero.
Well, it just means that you've got guys with you that have very good taste. So yeah, Padron Anniversario 64 in the natural wrapper is my go-to. Between that, the Padron Damaso, and the Dunhill Churchills, that's the rotation.
I found this one cigar one time. I was going on a houseboat trip with a bunch of guys. And I did some deep research on what cigars paired the best with bourbon. And being a Kentucky guy, I just like a little bourbon. I don't drink much, but when I do, it's going to be bourbon. And I found this amazing cigar. It's called La Roma de Cuba. Have you ever had any of those before?
La Roma, well, no, it's going on the list for sure.
Oh, baby, Nicaraguan soil, Dominican stock. Mwah! You put that with a little Woodford Reserve, a little double oaked, and you are in heaven for the rest of your life, man. It's like, we got to get around a fire sometime where we can we'll just bring 4 or 5 different cigars and we'll just talk about them.
And bourbons. And bourbons. I'll need 4 or 5 different bourbons to go with the cigars.
I got a buddy running down. We're going to run down the bourbon trail with him. He's going to pick up a barrel here in a couple weeks. So we're just going to go
beautiful.
Check out the distilleries, baby. Let me ask you a question about Kajabi real quick. What was it like coming in to Kajabi? Now, I know it had been there for a minute, but you were really the person that led them to where they are today. What was that like coming into Kajabi and taking that over and seeing that is remarkable growth to see something to grow thousands of percent in a few years? Just what did that feel like? Not necessarily the tactics, but the feeling of the growth.
It's interesting because looking back on it, there's always been an awareness with Kajabi that the company, it's just a very special place. So 100%. My journey getting to Kajabi and the certainty I had when I got to join Kajabi started when I met Kenny in 2011. It was about a year into the company's journey. And it was actually a friend of a friend that put us together, said, hey, you're in Orange County, Kenny's in Orange County, you guys should hang out. And we ended up becoming fast friends. I was a consultant at Kajabi for about 6 months. And for those of you that are old enough to know these names, Kajabi actually fired me to work with Frank Kern, who at the time was not nearly as attractive, but definitely a bigger consulting name than I was. So Kenny took me to this Starbucks right down the street in Old Town Tustin, said, hey, small company, we got to allocate resources differently. I said, no worries, let's stay friends. So then probably about 2 years after that, Kajabi made me an offer to come back as VP of Business Development. And at the time, I had just sort of gotten deep into product launches, affiliate management. And that posting at Kajabi lasted all of about 48 hours, maybe 72 hours, because I had at the same time gotten the CEO role offered to me at Digital Marketer in Austin, Texas. And I took Kenny to the same Starbucks and I quit. And, we laughed. We were friends at that point now going on probably 4 or 5 years. And, we joked about the fact that, since he fired me and I quit, we were even. And so then 2016, probably around June or July, it's a Monday. I'm at an office that I'm renting from Kajabi. I, at the time, was the general manager of Success Academy, which was the digital learning off of Success Magazine. And I remember that Monday because Kenny came in, hey, how's your weekend? And I was like, oh, got to figure out what I'm going to do. Stuart, the owner of Success Magazine, wanted me to move to Dallas, and I wasn't going to move to Dallas. My wife and I have always had the arrangement that I could do whatever I wanted with my career as long as I didn't ask her to move out of Orange County. And so Kenny's like, well, I really think this could be something unbelievable. And I would love to talk to somebody that wants to make it that, together. And it was, and then he made a joke. He said, and it's probably a lot easier than moving your shit out of the office.
Totally.
And so we laughed about it, sat down, and, just kind of were like, okay, what could this look like? And then just got really busy building every aspect of it. It was a Mach 3 hair on fire kind of season. And, when COVID came in, we were growing insanely, but it broke every system. And, went into COVID with 80 employees, exited with over 400,
Man.
and, completed 2 private equity rounds, the first of which in early 2020 was Spectrum Equity. And then the second in early 21 with Tiger Global, TPG, Owl Rock, Meritech, and Tidemark, and still building today. Now in that period of time, Kenny and I did have a 4-year sabbatical when we stepped out of operations in July of 21, coming back in October of last year. And ultimately the feeling has been really one of just immense gratitude. It sounds silly to say, but I mean, the company started because Kenny wanted to build a sprinkler toy and wanted to have a materials list and instructional videos. And even as an engineer, that didn't exist in the marketplace. And so he built it to solve his own challenge. And then it became the de facto launch tool for the internet marketers of the day. And now it's grown to have processed over $11 billion for digital experts all over the world. And I mean, it's one of those where it's never felt like work. Like
Totally.
literally get to, come to work with one of my best friends and get to serve entrepreneurs all over the world. And we get to see the transformative power of entrepreneurship every single day. I had 3 hero calls today. One of them is teaching Greek. The other is teaching art and color philosophy. And the third is helping women change their relationship with food at a neurobiological level. And I mean, it's like, that was just today. And these are all people with 6- and 7-figure businesses that they care about, that are transformative for the people they serve. And we get to be the platform that does it. So how it feels is just immense gratitude. Like,
Man,
you just come in and you're just like, holy cow.
Yeah, I've kind of been on that ride on the wings of it for like a lot of that time because I heard about Kajabi actually at a Brendan Burchard event. And for the life of me, I can't remember
Brendan
the guy.
emailed me this morning, actually.
Totally,
So Brendan
man.
is still a very good friend of Kajabi, Kenny, myself. I mean, we kind of all grew up in this world together.
100%, man. And when I went to that event, I heard of Kajabi, and this was that time when like the Wild Wild West started, like ClickFunnels, and Russell was doing his thing. Kajabi's coming up. There's all kinds of these platforms trying to kind of be the one that does this. And I love Russell and I love all of his stuff, but there was something about Kajabi to me that felt really, really pure. And it was funny because when I picked Kajabi as hosting our businesses, I always laugh when people they're like, "How do you start a business?" And I always tell them, "You need a podcast and Kajabi. We'll figure out the rest." Right when you ever start. And
there you go.
that's
Two
all you
things.
need. 2 things, man. Podcast and Kajabi. The rest will sort itself out. I actually in 2020 got a call from a guy named Joe Johnson, and he wanted me to come and help him create this big live event company called Life Surge. And I started this brand called Income Surge. My background, when I sold a business, we were looking to start our next business, and it was called Flipped Lifestyle, where we would coach entrepreneurs on how to start membership communities. And Flipped Lifestyle takes off. We put everything on Kajabi, and then I start this seminar company. This company just exploded. Thousands of people coming to events, seminars, everything. And dude, I don't know how many people came through over the years I was there, but I actually made every single person in there sign up for a free trial. I'm like, if you want to make money online, if you want to do anything, everything that you need is in Kajabi. And it got me to
Well,
thinking,
not only thank you, but also you should have been a part of our partner program. Like I
oh,
would
I
have
was. Made no
loved
mistake.
to have
I'm a
good,
businessman,
good,
son.
good. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah, I love a good
we like
affiliate
thank yous, but we
relationship.
also like writing checks. So.
No, I've received many from Kajabi, and I appreciate it. But like, what was funny was like I was thinking about that before we got on the call. It's not just the money that gets made in Kajabi, or it's not just the billions of dollars that go to the creators' families or all the people that work at Kajabi, but man, think about the impact that Kajabi has had on lives. Like those people you just said, the woman who gets her health back, the person who starts a business, or even just the person who's selling how to do art and they're helping people relax, their nervous system calms down. The ripple of Kajabi just on people's lives, it's unmeasurable what it's actually done out in the world.
It actually goes to something that I think for me is always a central theme of what we do, which is entrepreneurship is the greatest transformative force in the world. And it may be the
Yes,
only thing left that saves it. Like,
totally.
politics, good luck. There's not an aspect of life that when you become an entrepreneur, that your only standard is, are you delivering value to the world?
Mm,
And you then get to layer on, I'm delivering value with something that I'm extremely passionate about.
mm,
Things just change. That you think about the ripple effect of all of the heroes I just talked about today. All of those people are in a business that they really enjoy, serving
mm.
people that they really care about. Well, when you're in that place, how do you show up when you go get coffee at Starbucks? How do you show up when you pick your kids up from school? How do you show up when you are going about life, interacting with others? I can't think of a better headspace to be in than I'm actually doing something I give a shit about. And I
Yeah.
think that there's way too many people that don't know that a different path is possible, that they love a thing that they get to explore in the very few hours they might have on a weekend, and find out that it could be a business, that it could be
Yeah.
something where there's a community of people that want to learn it. And then everyone thinks, oh, well, there's already information on that. There's already YouTube videos on that. And it's like, well, ask me how many YouTube channels there are, or how many podcasts there are, or how many social media followings there are. The answer is you can't give me a number, or if you do, it's so mind-numbingly huge. All of those are opportunities, all of them. And we've moved to a place where it's not necessarily about the information, because the information's all available, it's all free, it's all searchable, and thanks to AI, it's now all interactable. But what it doesn't have is the authenticity of who I want to learn it from. And
Amen.
today, that is the new luxury. That it's not, is my information different than somebody else's? It is, am I the person that they want to connect with for this experience?
Mm,
And that is something that today AI still can't duplicate. Yeah, if
totally.
you're talking about, it's a book versus an AI chatbot wins 100% of the time. If you're talking about something that is a connection oriented source of accountability and transformation, AI doesn't have it and never will.
Yeah, man. It's funny because like when I left the last company I was with, we kind of just turned that over and wanted to do something else. I was just feeling I'm kind of one of those guys that I start a company, I run it for 5 to 7 years. I always tell people I change lives for a living, and I'm also ADHD and get bored. You know what I'm saying? So I want to start something new, and I was thinking about my next step. Probably about 2 years ago, I was on a retreat, and we were hanging out around the fire, smoking cigars, and a couple of guys were on the trip that weren't usually on it, and they were like, "Man, I really need this in my life." And this was when AI was kind of like starting to emerge. And this last company, which is how I started greatmen.org, I started thinking about, well, what can AI not do? And AI cannot be trusted. AI cannot really be loved. And AI also cannot trust. And AI cannot love. It just can't do that right now.
Well,
We'll
if you
see
think
in
if you
10
think
years.
about it, I mean, absent programming, AI is the most productive and effective sociopath you'll ever meet.
100%.
If you've ever had AI hallucinate and you've
Mm,
seen it happen, you will watch it give you an answer that it is entirely confident and convincing in the answer it gives you. And then you push back on it, and
and
it
it's patently false.
immediately admits that it was wrong. And it,
Yeah.
like, oh, you're right to push back on that. I missed this, this, and this. And it's like, but you answered in a way that if I didn't know enough to push back on you, I would
Mm,
be running entirely confidently in the wrong direction.
yeah.
And I just unfortunately think that in today's microwaved soundbite video shorts, TikTok reels society, I don't think anybody actually knows enough to question it. And that's the
Right.
scary part.
Totally, man. And like when you get people like a platform like Kajabi, what's so beautiful, what it does so beautifully, of course, it hosts courses and content, and you can deliver things, and you can automate emails and communications and stuff. But like the community aspect of it to me is so pure. It's better than any other community system out there because it comes in, it allows you as the leader of your people to be able to bring them to where they need to be or they need to go next. It enables you to be able to connect with them live on set schedules where humans can see a face, where they can hear a voice, that's not just a recording, that's not just chat GPT and like a robot voice. And I did think in the beginning, I was worried a little bit about the content space. I was worried about, you know, if you're only focusing on delivering courses, that's a little bit different animal. But being able to connect with real humans in real time is that's where we're at, because humans are needed right now more than ever in between the student and the information, leaders, guides, mentors, coaches, to curate the information. People come for the content, they join the community, but they stay for a leader who can curate things and actually get them to the result they want to get, not just regurgitate information and memorize it and hope that it turns out. If you're just selling content, you're going to have a problem. But if you're the human behind the content, I know that my customers and students right now are just so grateful that I'm actually showing up for them. Are you guys seeing that trend a little bit more toward live leadership? Everybody tried to get you to set it and forget it back about 2012. But like, what's happening in the background of your creators where they're showing more leadership or showing up more for their students?
Well, so a guy that I really like is a buddy of ours named Mel Abraham. And Mel gave me this, I guess I would say, lens on education that I steal it all the time. So Mel, if you're listening, sorry, I'm stealing your shit again. But he said there's a difference between just in case learning and just in time learning.
Mm,
And if we go back to 2012, the goal was just in case learning. I'm going to
mm,
take a course because I want to know how to do something. And I want to know how to do it in a way that I have embodied this knowledge. Today, much of the internet, much of the AI revolution has shifted everyone into this idea of just in time learning, which is I don't actually want to know how to do anything. I just want to know how to be able to get the next step served up, and then the step after that, and the step after that, which from a standpoint of progress can be helpful. From a standpoint of knowledge and expertise can be very problematic, because
mm.
I know that I don't want to be learning from the person that has only seen the next step, but not the 35 that come after it. I want somebody that's at the destination, not just one step ahead of me. And
Right.
I think that when you think about in 2012, there was a bit more of grit and willingness and tolerance for challenge that today, whether by, society, whether by circumstance, however it happens, it's just not there. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody wants to read the book. Everybody just wants the AI summary. Nobody wants to do the work. Everybody just wants the next step. And so I think in 2012, there was almost a volume value of
Totally.
education. Like I want to know everything. Take me deep, take me broad, give me everything you've got on this topic. And I think today, what people want is they want the same quality of outcome. They still want to get to the end result. And the faster path is meeting with someone that understands all of the pieces and can move you there faster.
Mm,
And that's largely where at Kajabi, we're trying to develop those tools in real time, because we want you as the expert to be able to deliver a custom one-on-one tailored experience while leveraging everything that amplifies you.
yeah.
So rather than it just being, here's a 12 module course, well, you might only need, I mean, maybe Shane only needs modules 3 and 8. And all of the rest of it is he already knows it. Well, great. I'm going to serve up 3 and 8, and I'm going to give you an asynchronous messaging back and forth with me. So this now becomes a custom tailored educational experience for you that is outcome oriented, that you're not going to get from AI that doesn't know all of the pieces. That's really where we see it going. So, I mean, even
Yeah,
if you
I
go
agree.
back to 2019, at our Impact Summit, we were talking about digital education essentially dying at that point. Like course completion rates were off a cliff. It was one of those areas where if you didn't have the coach, the accountability, the relationship, just raw material wasn't of value anymore.
Mm. You know, I think the expert was so positioned in like 2014, 2015. You had to be the expert, right? And like there are experts and experts are important. And but everybody wanted to be find your mentor. Everybody wanted to be
Mhm.
find a coach. And what I'm feeling with the people that I serve now is people want that guide, like you just said. Guide me to the part I'm missing. I don't need to start over here. I don't need to do this. I need it, and I want to make sure you know it and you've got it and you've been there and you've done that and have the receipts. But like, but I find myself more in a guidance kind of place with my students than I did 10 years ago. And I'm also seeing them get insanely better results because of that, because it's not this, and I'm feeling less pressure. I feel it in the ecosystem when even when I'm in Kajabi, I feel like more of a guide, like more of a part. I feel like that's where the platform has kind of moved to, is I'm with you on the bus. I'm your guide. I went through the valley of the shadow of depth and I brought back a map. Here, follow me. I'll just kind of like light the way. In your book, I've heard you talk about a concept I really wanted to talk about, is that people come last, right? When it comes to
Oh, this is a
business.
fun one.
This
That
is a
you,
fun
after
one.
you write a book, you find out the book you should have written because you find out
Oh,
what everyone
totally.
actually read from the book that you wrote, and you're like, oh shit, I should have just written that.
It's funny though, because but my first book, I did the exact same thing. I've just written another book. And when I was reading about this, when I was doing a little research and stuff, it's so interesting how you present this, and probably how people took it, because everybody says put your people first, do this, but you've said that people might come last in business, and so tell me about people come last, and what does that actually mean? We can clear the
Sure.
record if anybody's misunderstood this part.
So, to give everyone a little bit of context, the Billion Dollar Bullseye is essentially concentric circles. And the joke that I make is the way to win at darts is not to actually be good at darts. The way to win is actually throw at a bigger bullseye than everybody else. So if we start at the center and move outwards, we're looking at purpose, profit, and product. Those are your core three. If you don't have those, you don't have anything. And then it moves into the amplifiers of prestige, promotion, persuasion, and people. And people, you'll notice, comes last. So what most people would assume is that people come last means you're neglecting people, or that people are not a multiplicative force multiplier in a business. It's really perceived and probably meant to be, because if you're not polarizing, no one's paying attention.
Exactly.
What people last means is, in your world, your people are only going to show as brightly and perform as well as the stage you put them on and the tools you give them control over. And the reason that hiring should always come last is because it forces you to build in the order of these priorities, that you shouldn't move to profit. You shouldn't move to profit if you haven't nailed purpose. You shouldn't move to product if you don't know if you're profitable. You shouldn't move to prestige and experience if you haven't asked if the product's doing all of the heavy lifting it can. You definitely shouldn't move into promotion if you haven't figured out how the product and the experience are working for you, and so on and so on. And so if you've not looked at all of the systems of the business before hiring, you're hiring somebody that is set up to fail. And it even goes a little bit deeper on the philosophy, where I ask, is there any business out there today that wouldn't tell you that people are everything? People come first. We're only hiring A players. We want to hire the best, blah, 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 blah. There's no company that doesn't give you that talk track. Well, if it's true and it works, then why are there so few companies that reach stratospheric success?
Totally.
And the reason is because if you put good people in charge of good systems, you get great results. If you put poor people in charge of good systems, you will still get good results. But if you take great people and put them in charge of poor systems, you might get an average return if they have control of changing that system, but likely they don't. So even if you take great people and put them in charge of poor systems, you're done.
I came to this amazing conclusion because I went through like a really dark depression back in like 2023. I was having the classic midlife crisis, which I actually call now the midlife correction. It's not a midlife crisis. You're just trying to get back on track. Because on paper, man, like I looked around, man, and I had done everything everyone told me. I had made millions of dollars. I had the house. I had the 2.2 cars, 2.2 kids, hot wife. I mean, every people liked me. You know what I'm saying? It was like I looked around. I'm like, why do I feel so empty? Like, why is this so miserable? And I went on a journey, man, for about, gosh, a year or two, like literally a journey. Like I told you before we got online, I was got on the air. I wandered the mountains. I did the retreats. I did all the things, and I had this epiphany. Probably early 2024 that things were out of order. I was told my whole life growing up in the South, family first. You put your family first. You sacrifice yourself for your family. You martyr yourself for the family, your wife, your kids, whatever it is. Everybody else kind of comes first. And I started questioning that. And I started like, this doesn't seem systematically right, because I agree with you. I think that in business, I knew this intuitively, that you had to have great product, you had to have good market fit, you had to have your systems in place, you had to hand a decent system to this A player that you were spending so much money hiring. And I started looking at my life like that, and I had some things flip around. Like now, I believe your family comes after four things. Like if your physical health is terrible, there is no way you can be there for them. If you do not have brothers around you, if you don't have guys like your work, you like you said, you're working with your best friend. I'm working with some of my best friends. If you don't have that support network in place, how in the hell can you know who to go ask when you have a problem with your family? Your mental health, if that's out of whack, you have no chance to serve your people. And then this was the big flip for me as a man, especially. If I don't have my industry, if I don't have my income, if I don't have my business working in order, how in the hell can I ever provide for them? So even though in my priority list, those four things go before my wife and kids and my inner circle, it's actually because they go before them that they will prosper and they will be able to have the things and the protection and provision that they need. And it's so funny how entrepreneurship shows us that. It reveals that, because there's no other way to really do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think that when you look at early stage relationships, that's the period of time where it's, I'm going to take care of you and you're going to take care of me.
Mm.
When you actually get any experience in life, the best gift you can give somebody is, I'm going to take care of myself for you and you're going to take care of yourself for me,
Oh
so that we're
wow.
both bringing the best version of ourselves to a relationship. Because ultimately, if you sacrifice everything in that way, you're just going to wake up and resent all of the sources that made you sacrifice all of those things. And if you
Mm.
actually sit down and talk to them, they probably never asked you to sacrifice them anyway. Like, you
Wow.
just thought you were supposed to.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that those kind of conversations probably don't get had nearly enough. And that
Totally.
goes for team members, it goes for family members, goes for anything where you're doing something because you believe it is helping the other person. And the illusion is that they know that and they value that. And
Mm.
99 out of 100, if not 100 out of 100 times, they probably have no idea.
Yeah, man. And I think that's why, like, like I only run with entrepreneurs just because most people don't get me. You know what I'm saying? Like we just understand each other. But when I'm coaching, like we actually met each other through some students of mine, Daniel and Nicole Whitworth, who shout out Daniel and Nicole, two of my
Shout out to
favorite
Daniel
people.
and Nicole. Unbelievably awesome success story. And I asked
Unbelievable.
them, how'd you do it? And they're like, biggest thing we did, hire Shane. So there
There
you
you
go.
go. That's the way it goes. When I coach people like them, it's funny because I see them doing things this way in their family, in their life. When I see other people doing certain things a different way, or kind of the scripts that the world gives us, I find that a man in his business, if he does it not that way, if he's just, oh, my people first, I'll sacrifice, I'll do this, and he's not focusing on the other steps that you laid out, he only has the fumes of his own exhaustion at the end of the day to give to his business. And it's the same thing on the family side. Like, if you're like everything comes before these other things, which is the things that take care of me and myself, you just have the fumes of your own exhaustion, and you can't do that. And I think that people miss this because I don't know, they get into the hype machine of, the marketers, the this, the that, and the other, and they don't get back to like the fundamental principles of humanity. Like I love artificial intelligence. I click a little tab every day, and there they open: Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, Suno. I got them all right here on my desk. I can see it right now. But I believe in another AI, ancient intelligence. Man, they figured this crap out a long time ago, dude, and we just kind of neglected it. And I think you're into Stoicism, right? You into the Stoics? You into some
Oh, absolutely.
philosophy? Yeah,
Huge fan.
yeah. What got you into that? And how did like the philosophy of these guys that were writing 2,000 years ago, the Senecas, the Marcus Aurelius, how does that lay on top of the things that you're doing today in the modern world?
It's funny because I have a buddy that has a coffee mug that I've always loved. And the coffee mug just says, nobody cares, work harder. And what I love about the Stoics is the entire philosophy is built around controlling what you can, accepting what you can't, and just continuing to move forward. That
Mm,
every aspect, no matter how big or how small, is an opportunity for you to improve an opportunity to show the person that you aspire to be to the world. It's simply an operating system that just makes sense. And it's something that I think it works no matter what the circumstances are, that if you're on top of the world, it will serve you and help make sure you stay there. If you're not at the top of the world, it will serve you and give you an operating system to increase the odds of you getting there. No matter where you are, it works. It's not dependent on success or failure. It's not dependent on unique insight. It's simply dependent on doing the work. And, I mean, it's the summary of Stoic philosophies is always the journey of enlightenment. Guy goes to meet the grandmaster on the mountain, and he's like, oh well, I'd like to attain enlightenment. What should I do? And he's like, chop wood, carry water. And sure enough, 20, 30 years later, he achieves enlightenment. And he's like, master, I finally have enlightenment. What should I do? And he's like, chop wood, carry water. Same thing. And it's just a view that is so laid bare that it leaves nothing but the question of, are you doing the work? And if you sit with that, fixes everything.
Totally, man. Someone gave me, I mean, I was actually a school teacher. I taught history for 10 years. So I've always been a real history guy. I love learning about ancient times and how people thought. And someone sometime gave me the Gregory Hayes translation of Marcus Aurelius Meditation, which I think is like for the if you ever read the Bible, it's the NLT of Stoic philosophy, because it's in plain English for a guy like me from Kentucky. You know what I'm saying? And I read it, and like I
so if a good old boy ran Rome, this is how he would.
If a good old boy, if a hillbilly somehow got the crown, you know what I'm saying? That's what Marcus Aurelius was. And I really related to it, but I didn't get something the first couple times I read it through. I actually read it twice a year now. I read it at the beginning of the year, straight through in January every year. And then I go on this retreat with some buddies of mine. We rent a houseboat out on a lake. I bring it with me. I read through the whole thing in like a week. Right. So I read it twice a year. And I was reading it one time, and it was that part where he goes, he's like, what, are you just going to stay in bed? You just going to lay under your covers? Like, weren't you made for something more than sleeping in late? And the first time I read it,
and then going down that list of all of the undesirable people he will meet that day, like, I'm going to meet, charlatans, I'm going to meet manipulators, I'm going to...
They'll spit on me, they'll hate me, and I'm no better than them. You know what I'm saying? Like, he concludes this. But what I love about that philosophy, and it made me actually read all the Stoics differently, was in that moment when there was like the third time I think I read it through, I realized this book was never meant to be read by us. This was literally the ruler of the world, for all he knew. The emperor of Rome was looking at himself in the mirror and scolding himself, but not like the inner critic like many of us have, where we're like, you piece of shit, you idiot, God, I can't believe you screwed this up again. He was like coaching himself in the mirror. He was saying, no, dude, you slept in again? Come on, bro, man, you're bet you can do this. You can get up. You can get out of that. And as I read back through meditations, like I always see this man looking in the mirror with a very healthy way that he's talking to himself. And it's such a model of how men could look at themselves, like when we fail, when we succeed, how to balance that stuff out. But that's what I get when I read Marcus Aurelius, is like this. That is the battle, man. Like, JCron and Shane Sam's got to get up every single day. We got to wake up, go to the bathroom, we got to brush our teeth, and we got to look in the mirror. And we got people waiting for us, and we're saying these same things in our head. And it's not this toxic positivity. It's this, no, it's getting real, like with reality. I think that's what the Stoics have always done.
Yeah, the first Stoic letter I ever read that kind of prompted me to explore it more was Seneca's on festivals and fasting.
Oh,
it's one that I've never taken it to the level he did, and I mean, obviously, because, I would assume my wife and children would not enjoy the journey as much as I would. But that idea of, I satisfy myself with the scantest of fare, and, is this the condition I feared? It's just wild. Like to see somebody that has all the wealth and resource that intentionally for a period presents themselves into the worst of circumstances.
Yeah.
Just to be like, nah, this isn't so bad.
He would just walk out into the woods. Like he would just literally point and just walk into the wilderness, which none of us would survive that right now.
No,
to make
no.
sure he could still take it, even though he was at an incredible party like 3 nights ago with the Senators of Rome or whatever. And that was kind of why I went to the mountains last week, man. Did my retreat, and I'm like, I'm going into the
Mhm.
woods, and I hope I come back out. Let's go see
Yeah.
if I can
Well,
live
and I have to
homeless in
say
a
too,
car for a
like
week.
having met Ryan Holiday much earlier in his writing career, long before he started writing a lot of The Obstacle is the Way and
Yeah,
Stillness is I mean, he has really made Stoic thinking so accessible. Like he
totally.
really has done an amazing job bringing things that philosophically you might have to wrestle with, and he's brought it in a way where it's just you can't help but enjoy it. Like
People
he's
get it.
really done. So if anybody hasn't read Ryan Holiday's stuff, any of his books is killer.
What other philosophy stuff have you gotten into? Like, I've done the
Oh
Epictetus
wow.
stuff. I've bounced around to a lot of different things. Marcus Aurelius is the gateway drug to philosophy, and once you go down that rabbit hole, you realize how stupid we are in the modern world and everything we've forgotten. Right?
The one that I am nerding out about right now is actually Luke Burgess, who I love his stuff. He just came out with a new book called The 99 and the One, but that's not the book I'm going to talk about because I'm not through it yet. He wrote a book called Wanting, and
Mm,
it is probably one of the most unique lens shattering books on why we do what we do in life. And basically, Wanting is a deep dive into the work of Rene Girard's mimetic desire.
okay.
And mimetic desire is this idea that we don't really want or know how to want anything, and that almost every desire we have is modeled. And
Mm,
when you begin to realize this, you see it all over the place. And it forces you to evaluate everything through the lens of where is this desire actually coming from, or where did I adopt it from? Is it still serving me? Do I want to keep it? And then beginning to see how this mimetic desire is used as almost like a master manipulation key in the universe. It's just a wild, wild book. So yeah, Luke Burgess, Wanting, that would be one. Mimetic Desire, Rene Girard's work. That's the one I'm pretty deep in right now, and I just find it absolutely fascinating.
we are down the same rabbit hole, but I think we were in two different rabbit holes heading toward the same burrow. Because a couple years ago, someone gave me the book "The Courage to Be Disliked." Have you read that,
Yeah,
dude? It's yeah,
yeah. It's the
Chiro
Japanese
Kashimi.
author. Yep.
Yeah, Chiro Kashimi, and it's an
Mhm.
amazing book that's written in Socratic dialogue. And if you get the audio book, the kid who goes and sees the philosopher, they're different voices, and there's a narrator that's like feminine energy. She's a female, and this really, in the same. I just ordered that book on Amazon on air. How you like that, guys? What you just said, but
Boom.
it's based on the work of Alfred Adler,
Mhm.
who basically him and Viktor Frankl said it's all stories.
Yep. All
Everything,
problems are
yeah,
people problems.
every one of them, man. It's all stories in your head about what you think happened. We're 1,000 different stories in each other's minds. And then what that book really taught me, which I think the mimetic thing is on a similar, like a more scientific words to be able to put it in there, is that we think we remember what happened. We think that our childhood trauma's there. We think that we remember that guy that screwed us out of the business deal. We think we know all these things, but one, there's a reason they need two people in court because nobody remembers anything accurately over like 10 minutes. And then, like, if you look back 30 years ago at a story where somebody screwed you or something, you don't know what they were thinking. You don't know what anybody was thinking. You just made up a story like in your head. And when I learned that concept of these things are given to us, the mimetic thing is everything we think we believe ourselves, someone handed us. I realized, man, if I made up the story last time, couldn't I make up a new story? Couldn't I re-edit the past? Couldn't I just change the story like going forward? And I don't think you can get that out of many modern business books. I don't think you can get that out of a lot of even fiction. But when you get down the rabbit hole on these philosophical guys who are actually thinking about these questions, it just wakes you up. It just totally wakes
Well,
you up, and you can
so
change things.
my buddies over at Category Pirates, Eddie Yoon and Christopher Lochhead, my favorite way they say it is, thinking about thinking is the only thinking worth doing.
Mm,
And it's fun. I mean, because it's one of those things, for everybody listening right now. My guess is if you're following Shane, you're either in business or you're a coach or you're a digital entrepreneur of some kind. If you want to be a thought leader, you actually need to have leading thoughts. And
mm.
This is the day
Say it
where
again for the people in the back, JCron.
oh,
Come on now.
it's just like I mean, this AI universe that we're in, LinkedIn in the course of 18 months, maybe less, went from actual business posts to now just content spam. Same formula, 3 lines, dot, 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 post gets truncated, click for the rest. Like it is all damaging admission, thread of some kind. Like
Yeah.
there is this formula where everyone is saying exactly the same thing. And if you're not bringing something different to the party, God help you, man. Like
Yeah, man.
it's
Are you on
just,
Substack? Do you do Substack?
I love Substack. I'm a big fan
Substack
of
is where
them.
I hang out.
I still and you know, anyone who's built a company knows there are moments of inflection where you're just like, man, we missed that one. I can still remember the board meeting we were in where one of our managing directors said, you know, I think this newsletter thing's going to be a thing. And then we proceeded to not build it. And lo and behold, it became a thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, John, you were right on that one. And boy, did we miss it. So
Yeah, Substack is an amazing place right now. I'm sure the marketers will try to get in there and screw it up. I've seen a few of them trying to do it, but it almost has a white blood cell count against nonsensical spamming. Like it's like the community itself like infect and tries to keep it from infecting itself. But
reading takes work.
Totally,
if you
dude.
don't want to read it, like if you are not enraptured, it's like, no,
Yeah.
I'll go watch the movie or eat a snack or browse TikTok. Like,
Yeah, even 3 sentence notes, I'm like, nah, just don't show me that ever again. You know what I'm saying?
well, and there's no doubt about it. Like if you really, for those of you listening, if you're a nerd like me, go on eBay and buy a copy of Success Magazine from like 1905. And when you pick this up and you see the complexity of language and thought in print, that the assumption is these people didn't really have a lot of indoor plumbing and weren't that smart. These are magazines that I would bet better than 80% of college educated people today couldn't read them.
PhD level stuff, man.
I mean, it's bonkers to see how dumbed down most of us have gotten, or
Totally,
I'll say all of us. You know, there's probably categories where I've really let those knives get dull too. But I mean, I think long format, authentic content, it's the only, it's the last bastion of where the world will want to go. Because I think if you thought the internet was overwhelming before AI, after AI, good luck.
Yeah,
It's gonna be junk everywhere.
Yeah, I always say too, like I think it works on 2 levels. Like if I love long form content. I love to create long form content. Like that's why I like podcasting. That's why I like writing on Substack. And like even in marketing, you know, people always buddies of mine will be like, "Why are you writing such long emails? Why are your Instagram posts like just books and novels?" And I'm like, "Who's going to read that?" And I'm like, "Well, probably people that will buy things and will actually have their lives changed by what I'm saying."
Dan Kennedy talks about that all the time. He's like, here's where marketers go wrong is you hire somebody to optimize your process and they come to you and say, great news, we got 30% more email addresses on the landing page. Well, how'd you do it? Oh, well, we removed the first name and we removed the question we were asking them. Okay, so I got 30% more emails. Did you actually see how many sales came out the back end? Because my guess is you gave me 30% more people that are probably far less qualified. And the people that were qualified are now no longer being qualified by those other 2 fields. So you optimized for efficiency, but you missed effectiveness. And that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. And that goes at every layer of your life. Like that goes to, like, if I just tell my son, you know, like this car turns on and you drive it. That's short form content, right? Oh, cool. He opted in. He's ready to drive the car. But if I'm like, no, you change the oil over here. You got to put gas in over here. If this little meter gets over here, if I give him the long form version of it and actually teach him how to do it, then I know even when he breaks down, he won't need me. He'll be able to figure it out. He'll be able to know kind of like what's going on.
Well, it's like Seth Godin said, if you split test often enough, you'll always end up with a porn site. Like that's basically where like eventually that's just where it all goes every single time.
That's a great quote. I've never heard Golden say that before.
Yep.
So true. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to give you credit twice, then Seth credit twice, and I'm going to act like I made it up. That's what I'm going to do for that.
As with, you know, it all started with Mark Twain. So I'm sure he said it
That's
too.
exactly right. He figured it out, dude. Hey, let's move towards cigars just for a minute because I'm always fascinated with guys that love cigars, and love to share that because I think that cigars are a ritual that men need back. I think we really do. You can talk to me about nicotine and tobacco and all this stuff. Do your research. I've done mine. I'm still throwing down 3 or 4 a week. That's how we're doing it, right? But like, what do you like about cigars? Like, what is interesting about cigars to you? And how does that play into your friendships, like especially with other men or business owners? Because I think people see cigars and it's like, oh, the fat cat smoking cigars, or and everybody's no smoking with cigarettes because they're toxic and poison. But like there's something about a cigar that changes men. And I've got some theories on it. But what do you love about cigars? How did you get into cigars? And what do cigars mean in your relationships for you?
Well, I would definitely say anybody that's offended by me smoking a cigar, how they feel about my behavior is none of my business.
Totally.
I think that when I look at the conversations that Kenny and I have had brainstorming over cigars, some of the best long format explorations of thoughts that became things that became products and campaigns. And it has a capacity to engage your brain, which obviously nicotine is a very powerful neurocognitive enhancer. So your brain is going to be firing, but it does so in a way that is completely unrushed. And I
Mm,
think that that is a combination that you don't find. So you could tell me that alcohol fuels creativity and you enjoy it. And the answer is it does, but it also is something that can be rushed. You could have a glass of wine, but you can also have a shot.
mm,
What I think is interesting about cigars, it is, to my knowledge, the only vice that can't be rushed. It's the only thing that requires a longer format conversation, a more extended thought process. You can't have an idea with a cigar and then just opt out, go implement this, brain fart that popped up. Like you've got hour, 2 hours at minimum that this is going to gestate and change and iterate in your brain and in the conversations that happen. It's just a very powerful brainstorming tool, and you can't rush it. Like if
yeah.
you try to smoke a cigar fast, you'll only try once.
Totally, man. And it's funny. I got into cigars probably. I mean, I smoked cigars about 10 years ago when I started hanging out with guys and we started, chilling out more and going on trips and stuff. But really went down the rabbit hole in 2020, and I introduced it into the mastermind I've been a part of for about 11 years now. And what I find too with guys, especially high achieving guys, like guys that are doing things, helping people, like building companies, is it slows us down in an etiquette way. Because if you establish, when you get around with guys smoking cigars, if your cigar goes out, you've been talking too much. Like you got to toke on that thing about every 60 seconds, or it's going to eventually go out. You're going to drop your ash, or something's going to happen, and you're going to have to stop. Where's the lighter? I got to mess up the conversation. And then it's like, then there's a little self-correction there, like, come on, man, Jesus Christ, you've been talking for 5 minutes, no wonder your cigar went out, right? But it's like the ultimate governor for men, because we've lost the ability to sit around a fire. We've lost everybody's so go go go, let's figure this out, let's take action, let's do things. But when you sit down around a fire, you smoke a cigar, like I feel like every time I smoke a cigar now with a bunch of guys, something in my life shifts. Like it changes, because not only are you smoking the cigar, not only are you talking about the idea, not only but you're listening. It makes us listen for an extended period of time. And it's hard. Guys come into a lot of conversations with performance, masks. Who is this guy? Who am I? How am I in relation to this guy? And the cigar melts that completely away.
I don't know that I've ever teased it out the way you're talking about it. It's also a setting that I think is a hedge against undesirable behavior for connection. That
Tell
it's
me more.
rare that you'll sit in a cigar lounge with guys around a table and everyone's texting or everyone's emailing.
Oh, that's
That
brilliant.
it's
Yeah.
almost like there's this unwritten social contract of, no, I'm unwinding and
Mm.
this is where I'm choosing to be. And, yeah, you might take a message here, a message there, but it's far less likely than if I'm in a bar.
Yeah, man.
Phones are out because it's just part of the thing.
I like the unwinding word there, because there is I'm letting my guard down to relax kind of moment when everybody's clipping off the cap and firing up that cigar, that sets the tone for a conversation. I got two business partners right now, and it literally in our operating agreement, we say minimum 2 meetings a month for the partners, and one of them must be smoking cigars. That's actually in our operating agreement.
Well, it's, that's why the
And that's how we're
partnership's going
living
to
our
work.
life. That's right, baby. All right, I got one more question for you. Ask everybody this, and I just love hearing everybody's story, and especially a guy like you who has literally operated at terrifying numbers to some people, at numbers that we all aspire to, but things are happening. There's lots of people involved. I even think about the weight like of responsibility, not just for you and your personal life, but for all these creators who have communities of hundreds of thousands of people who are interacting with them like on the platform. You've been in business for 20 years plus, built so many incredible things, but like when you strip that all away, the money, the this, that, and the other, what does building a great life on your terms look like for JCron? Like looking back and looking forward, what does that mean to you?
Well, I will read you the quote that embodies it because it's a quote that I adopted very early on, and it's LP Jack's The Master in the Art of Living. And the reason I'm going to read it is because I want to get his language exactly and not paraphrase it. But LP Jack said, "A master in the art of living draws no sharp distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence through whatever he is doing and leaves others to determine whether he is working or playing. To himself, he always appears to be doing both." So for me, that's the way I would define it. That
Amen, man.
if I am able to live in a way where no one knows if I'm working or playing in every category of my life and feeling progression in every category of my life, it's working.
That's what I'm talking about, man. JCron, we got to come back one day and we'll just do a full-blown philosophy episode on the Stoics. That's what we got to do. And
sounds good. Dude, you should. I think it's
smoking a
about time
cigar.
you change the format of this show and just start filming it in a cigar lounge and smoking during the episodes. I mean, that's what I would do.
That's a great idea. That may happen, man. Hey, before we go, anywhere online you want people to go check out Kajabi, check out what you're doing. Maybe you're creating
Kajabi.com. Kajabi.com. That's where it all is. That's where all the fun's being had. And we've got every expert. We just need you.
That's right, baby. All right, y'all. That wraps up my interview with JCron himself, the real brains and one of the key components behind Kajabi's incredible rise. If you want to read his book, it's called The Billion Dollar Bullseye. It's all about how to lead your companies and really lead your life. It's really a book that you could look at, the 7 P's that he has in there: purpose, profit, product, prestige, promotion, persuasion, and people. There's a lot of overlap, which I find with guys that are into stoicism, into philosophy, really have. That's the guys that I follow when I'm thinking about business or how I'm running my family or I'm running my life. And go check everything out. And I've kind of been on a passenger seat in the bus for the rise in Kajabi. I got into Kajabi really, really early. It's still my preferred platform. It is what greatmen.org is built on. And if you want to learn more about Kajabi, you can go to greatmen.org/Kajabi, and you can see how I have used it to create all of my wealth, to create all of my communities. I've coached thousands of people on how to build online communities, online brands, businesses that can really serve their family and their customers. And every business I've built for the past decade has been on Kajabi. So it was a real honor having JCron on, and we're going to get him back on maybe for a couple podcasts down the road. If you're enjoying everything that we're doing here on Great Men with Shane Sams on the podcast, you got to be over at greatmen.org. You can join the brotherhood there. We have a free tier for anybody that wants to come in. If you're a guy out there building businesses, if you're a guy out there living his life, and maybe you don't have a bunch of guys around you, you need men in your corner, and those men are at greatmen.org. We have an online community. We've got weekly meetings where we hang out and we eat lunch together. And one of the things we do at Great Men is I take guys out on guys trips where we sit around the fire, we fire up some cigars, and we start talking about work and life. So check that out over at greatmen.org. And if you have not done so yet and you love the podcast, please do me a favor. Go and leave a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you leave a review too. Tell us what you love about the show. Tell us your favorite guest. That really helps us get the word out there to other great men out there looking for connection, looking for community. Elevates the show so we can get more guests on here that share amazing content like JCron did today to serve you. That's all the time I have for this week. My name is Shane Sams. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, I will see you over at greatmen.org.